Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters and respected elders. If you'd like to take your seats, inshallah, we'll resume with the speech, an Islamic view of Gog and Magog. And inshallah, I'll pass it back over to the Sheikh.
Bismillahi awwaluhu wa akhiruh. We have now reached that point in time in our lecture when it is possible for us to identify Gog and Magog. They are human beings. They are a people who have been given a power which none can destroy other than Allah. Even Zulkarnain cannot destroy the power. But Zulkarnain can render them helpless, to commit fasad on them, contain them, protect us from them. That's what Zulkarnain can do. And we use the term checkmate. Render them harmless, to checkmate them, to render them harmless, to put them in jail, for example. And we found that the Quran is telling us that there is a town, and we have identified it as Jerusalem, and that Allah destroyed the town, and He expelled the people of the town, who are Banu Israel, and then placed a ban on them that they could never return to this town to reclaim it as their own. And indeed, they could not for 2,000 years. But when Gog and Magog are released, and when Gog and Magog have spread out in all directions, وَهُمْ مِنْ كُلِّ حَدَبٍ يَنْسِلُونَ, then they'll take control of power in the world. And they will use that power to oppress. They will use that power to liquidate the primitive way of life, right roughshod over the primitive peoples. They will exploit and oppress mankind to do their own business, to achieve their own ends, to build a new heaven across the Atlantic Ocean, a new paradise across the Atlantic Ocean, and to build it overnight. And they do it on the backs of millions and millions of slaves that they oppress in the most barbaric form of slavery mankind has ever experienced. When Gog and Magog are released, therefore, the world is going to be a terrible place. A very famous poet of India, his name was Dr. Muhammad Iqbal, once had the insight that the Darul Uloom still does not have to this day, up to this day. But it was around 1917, which is 100 years ago, that this famous poet published a verse in poetry, which was read by the whole of India, all of them. Listen to what he said. खुल गए याजूज और माजूज के लश्कर तमाम. All the forces of Gog and Magog have now been released. चश्मे मुस्लिम देख ले तफसीर हर्फ यंसिलो. The Muslims must now direct their attention to the Quran and to that passage in the Quran which ends with the word yansilun, and that is the one we've just quoted. وَحَرَامٌ عَلَى قَرْيَةٍ أَهْلَكْنَاهَا أَنَّهُمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ حَتَّى إِذَا فُتِحَتْ يَأْجُوجُ وَمَأْجُوجُ وَهُمْ مِنْ كُلِّ حَدَبٍ يَنْسِلُونَ. Iqbal was absolutely correct. Did the Darul Uloom pay any attention to him? 100 years have passed, and Iqbal's voice has been crying in the wilderness for reasons beyond my capacity to explain. The institutions of higher Islamic learning should be at the forefront of Islamic scholarship, explaining with the Quran the world today. The institutions of Islamic learning, of higher Islamic learning, have failed and failed miserably and dangerously so. To turn to the Quran, that the Quran can explain, for example, the oppression of the last 500 years. And so the scholars of Islam who have failed and failed miserably to turn to the Quran, that the Quran could explain the world today, as Iqbal just did, must prepare themselves to answer before Allah on Judgment Day. That's all I have to say to them. And so now, who are those who brought the Jews back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own after 2,000 years? Was it the Chinese? Was it the Japanese? Who was it? There's only one answer. It is modern Western civilization. Is Russia a part of modern Western civilization? Anyone who says that Russia is a part of the West should buy a one-way ticket to the moon. The West has waged endless wars on Russia. Endless wars. And are now preparing to wage what they don't know, their last war. This is their last war that they'll ever wage. Russia is now a part of the West. Those who brought the Jews back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own, 2,000 years after Allah had expelled them and banned their return, belong to modern Western civilization. And the dominant characteristic of modern Western, the dominant characteristics of modern Western civilization are that inside of this civilization there is a mysterious reconciliation between a part of the Christian world and a part of the Jewish world. And Allah speaks about that. Reconciliation and friendship and alliance between Christians and Jews, and he warns us about it. But those who are taking weapons and taking money from Santa Claus to wage their bogus jihad in Syria, they don't want to study the Quran. No. So wait and prepare yourself for the day when you have to answer. لا تتخذوا اليهود والنصارى أولياء. Do not take Jews, which Jews is Allah talking about. And do not take Christians, which Christians is Allah talking about, as your friends and allies. Allah answers the question in the words that follow. بَعَدُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. There is the answer. بَعْدُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. Do not take such Jews and do not take such Christians as your friends and allies, who themselves are friends and allies of each other. If you explain this ayah of the Quran differently, prepare yourself. Prepare yourself. This is the correct explanation of the Quran. وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّهُمْ مِنْكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. Whosoever from amongst you turn to them, you no longer belong to this ummah. You're gone. You've left this ummah. You now belong to them. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الظَّالِمِينَ. Surely Allah does not provide guidance for wicked people. This is the first characteristic of modern Western civilization. That at its heart there is a mysterious Judeo-Christian alliance that Allah has warned us about in the Quran. The second thing about this mysterious Western civilization is that it developed a power unprecedented in human history. No civilization on the face of the earth could stand in their way for 500 years. Where did they get that power from? How did they get it? An amazing scientific and technological revolution which has now reached the age of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and blockchain technology and so on. And 31 times in the Quran, not just once or twice, but 31 times in the Quran, in one surah, Surah Al-Rahman. 31 times he's knocking and knocking and knocking on our mind. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Two people who are rejecting the truth from Allah. And these two people are evil. And He gives us the capacity to recognize them, that they are human beings and they are jinn, because He says, Ya ma'ashar al-jinni wal-ins. And He gives us a further capacity to recognize them, because they are the ones who are going to engage in space exploration. إِنِ اسْتَطَعْتُمْ أَن تَنْفُذُوا مِنْ أَقْطَارِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ فَانْفُذُوا. This is the civilization that did it. Huh? But in the Quran Allah says, we're going to deal with you. We're not going to continue to oppress mankind indefinitely. A time will come when we'll deal with you. سَنَفْرُغُ لَكُمْ أَيُّهَا الثَّقَلَانِ. And He also tells us how He's going to deal with them. يُرْسَلُ عَلَيْكُمَا شُوَازٌ مِّن نَارٍ وَنُحَاسٌ. We're going to send against you a blaze of fire followed by smoke. فَلَا تَنْتَصِرَانِ. And on that day there will be no help for you. And we know when that happens, is going to be affecting the world of Christianity and the world of Judaism. Not so much the Chinese and the Buddhist and the Hindu world, but the world of Christianity and the world of Judaism. When this great change comes over the world and the oppressor gets his wings cut off, because Allah says, and we quoted last night, where it's called Allahu ya Isa, inni mutawaffik, wa rafi'uka ilayya, wa mutahhiruka min alladhina kafaru. Oh Jesus, I'm going to take your soul, I'm going to raise you, and I'm going to cleanse you of all the filth that they heard on you. Those who rejected you as the Messiah and said you're a liar, and who declared of your mother that she committed sin, and that you're a bastard, and those who joined with them in alliance, I'm going to cleanse you of these people, this rubbish. How will he cleanse them? How will he cleanse them? وَجَعِلُ الَّذِينَ تَبَعُوكَ, I'm going to cause those who follow you, who will never declare that a man can marry another man and get a marriage certificate. Not in a million years. That world of Christianity that follows Jesus, even when they declare that he is God and he is the Son of God, because Nabi Isa alayhi salam says Allah can forgive them. Read your Quran if you don't believe me. وَجَعِلُ الَّذِينَ تَبَعُوكَ فَوْقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, I'm going to turn the tables. And this Judeo-Christian alliance which has been hurling all this rubbish and garbage on you is going to be defeated and brought down low. And this side which follows you will be raised above them and dominant over them. And when the tables are turned, it will remain like that until the end of the world. So now, all that remains is the second of the two currents, Karnain. Remember we started with that. The second of the two currents has to come. And in between these two, Gog and Magog have to be released. And when they are released, they have to spread out in all directions, take control of the world order of Gog and Magog, and be the most powerful force of oppression mankind has ever witnessed. Everything falls down before them, everything. No one can stand up to them. Not even Tipu Sultan. So, and then you see them bring the Jews back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own. That's in between this current and that current. But this is not going to last forever. سَنَفْرُغُ لَكُمْ أَيُّهَا الثَّقَلَانِ. Allah is saying, I'm going to bring the curtain down on this civilization. I'm going to bring the curtain down on this civilization. And when I bring the curtain down on this civilization, it's going to be a flash of fire followed by smoke. Even if we die in the great war which is to come, but we die with our hearts in the right place. When we are raised, we will smile. There'll be light on our faces. Surah Ar-Rahman, Surah Ar-Rahman, Surah Ar-Rahman. Yes? So don't be afraid to die. Don't be afraid to die. Now then, when will the second current come? The second current will have to be those who follow Jesus. The second current, those who follow him. They are the ones who must now become dominant in the world. And when he returns, he will return as Hakimul Adil. So he returns to rule. Is he coming back to the Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam? No. Who is he coming back to? He's coming back to his Ummah. His Ummah. His Ummah. Go to the Quran and do your homework. So there is going to be a ruling state in the world, meaning a khilafah state, over which Nabi Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, will rule. And of course it will have to be from Jerusalem. And the Messiah will rule the world from Jerusalem exactly as the Jews believe he would. So a people who follow him will be raised above these people, and then they will become the ruling state in the world, and they will remain in that position of power and dominance until the end of the world. Naturally, NATO doesn't like this. NATO doesn't like this. But our message to NATO from Birmingham is that your 500 years of oppression over the world is about to come to an end. And praise is due to Allah who sent the Quran. That the Quran could explain what nothing else can explain. Only the Quran can explain. Now when the second of the two comes is to come, the world will witness power resting on the foundations of faith, and that power manifesting itself, where is it? Here. That power will manifest itself here in the Black Sea area. And it will be a people who follow Nabi Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, the Christian people. And they will use power to resist the oppressor, not to oppress. Russia is very much like Pakistan. The people of Pakistan have never had the freedom to have their own rulers. No. The rulers have always been chosen from outside. And the rulers rule on behalf of their masters outside. Even though the people of Pakistan despise what their rulers are doing. Similar with Russia. Similar with Russia. That there were Tsars who rule over Russia, but these Tsars were chosen from outside of Russia. And they were following an agenda that came from the West. And these are the Tsars who wage wars of oppression against Muslims, to give Russia a bad name as an oppressor. And they were unjust and oppressive against Muslims. They slaughtered Muslims, they destroyed Muslims, in order to give Russia a bad name, so that between Russia and Muslims there will be hatred and enmity. And then when these Tsars did a particularly good job, then the Western world gave them the title Great. Peter the Great. Catherine the Great. Because they did the work we wanted them to do. So Russia was not an oppressor of Muslims. No. It is those who hijack Russia, like they hijacked Pakistan so many times. They're the ones who did the work to sabotage the relationship between the followers of Nabi Muhammad and the followers of Nabi Isa. And I hope that this lecture may reach Russia and may reach the Balkans and reach Greece and reach Belgrade. The Black Sea is today controlled by Russia. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, Russia recovered Crimea. They planned their plans. I don't have the time to tell you what were their plans. But then Allah planned His plans. And their plans backfired on them. And instead of choking Russia by the neck, Russia was able to turn the tables on them and recover Crimea. And when Russia, where's Crimea? Can you show me Crimea? When Russia recovered Crimea, there's Crimea. That's Crimea. When Russia recovered Crimea, Russia now as a nuclear power now controls the entire Black Sea area. Your projection of power, nuclear power. So what has happened in the last 3 years is that power has returned to the Black Sea area. Unprecedented power. But power resting on the foundations of faith. The Soviet Union also controlled this area, but that was power resting on the foundations of godlessness. And this is power resting on the foundations of faith. Russia is returning to Orthodox Christianity. Russian diplomacy today is the most morally upright in the whole world. Russia doesn't lie. No, Russia doesn't tell lies. If Russia had not intervened in Syria, the Syrian Christians would have been slaughtered by Dajjal's warriors who went there to wage their bogus jihad. And if the Syrian Christians had been slaughtered at this time, it would have been the end to any possibility of Muslims and Orthodox Christians having friendship and alliance with each other. Yes. If these Dajjal's warriors had succeeded in Syria, Russia would have lost a naval base. Where is it? In Syria. We don't have it here. And Russia would have been finished in that region of the world. So their bogus jihad in Syria was actually to cut Russia's throat. But look at how Allah has planned His plans. That Russia now controls the Black Sea, exactly the area where Zulkarnain came the first time. And Russia now has a military superiority over the West, and they can't tolerate that. That for the first time in 500 years, the oppressor is now face to face with someone who is resisting him and who has military superiority over him, and praise is due to Allah. And so the second current has now come. And the second current has come to the Orthodox Christian world led by Russia. Putin can be here today and be gone tomorrow. So when we speak about Zulkarnain, we don't speak about an individual. I will not speak an individual. I will say the second of the two currents is the Orthodox Christian world led by Russia that is returning to Orthodox Christianity. If this is correct, then we see that in this region of the world, where there was a people, لَنْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُم مِّن دُونِهَا سِتْرًا, who were living a primitive way of life. And Zulkarnain, Kazalik, left them as he met them, respecting the rights of the indigenous people. Russia must display the same kind of behavior of respect for human rights. And Russia is doing that. Respect for human rights. And now comes the last part. That in the same way that Gog and Magog were contained the first time, not destroyed, contained. So they were rendered harmless. Gog and Magog will have to be contained a second time for Karnain. And so now we who have the Quran, we already know the outcome of the great war which is around the corner. We know that in this great war which is coming, The Western world will be contained in that region of the world which is over here, the north of the Holy Land area. They will be rendered helpless. They will be checkmated in this part of the world. We know something else. We know from Surah Al-Rahman, فَانْفُذُوا لَا تَنْفُذُونَ إِلَّا بِالسُّلْطَانِ, that you are able to send your intercontinental ballistic nuclear missiles all over the place and have your military satellite stations revolving around the earth and so on, and your robotic submarines at the bottom of the earth, the bottom of the ocean. Allah says that this is possible for you only because of authority. So implicit, لا تنفذون إلا بالسلطان, implicit, because you got to think. Implicit is that Allah can withhold authority anytime He wants. And since He says, سَنَفْرُغُ لَكُمْ أَيُّهَا الثَّقَلَانِ, it is as plain and clear as daylight now, that He is going to withhold authority in the great war which is coming. And when He withholds authority, then their missiles will not fly. Because Allah can send thousands and thousands of angels. He sent them at the Battle of Badr, and they fought with us. And it takes only one angel to take one guided missile and make it misguided. I don't know if nature will be able to digest it in and out. And so their missiles can go all over the place. But these will be accurate. Because Allah says, I'm going to destroy every town and every city. وَإِن مِّن قَرْيَةٍ إِلَّا نَحْنُ مُهْلِكُوهَا قَبْلَ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ أَوْ مُعَذِّبُوهَا عَذَابًا شَدِيدًا كَانَ ذَلِكَ فِي الْكِتَابِ مَسْطُورًا. Allah is going to destroy every town and every city which ought to be destroyed. Number one on the list, anywhere where a man can marry another man and get a marriage certificate, you're going to be destroyed. So a missile coming from the other side will destroy you. But a missile from this side is not going to go anywhere. This is how the second of the two currents will result in Gog and Magog being contained in the north. Is that the end of Gog and Magog? No. There's one last piece of this lecture. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that when they are released, Gog and Magog, the first of them will pass by the Sea of Galilee. Can we get that? There we are. There we are, the Sea of Galilee. The first of them will pass by the Sea of Galilee on their way to Jerusalem. Oh, we don't have Jerusalem here. Jerusalem somewhere on there. So they're coming from the north. Here we are. This is Jerusalem there. And the Sea of Galilee will be somewhere about there.
It's at the top.
Here we are. Sea of Galilee. And they're coming from the north, down to the south. The first of them will pass by the Sea of Galilee and start to drink the water. And by the time the last of them pass, they'll say there used to be water here. Which could mean one of two things. Which could mean that the water level will go down very, very, very low. Or it could mean it's going to dry up completely. I am now inclined to the first meaning. Okay? That there used to be water here means there used to be a lot of water here. Now look at it. Today the Sea of Galilee is precisely that. It cannot recover anymore. It's low, very low. So it means that when you see the Sea of Galilee with very little water left, the implication is that most of Gog and Magog have already left the north and are down concentrated in the Holy Land. So when the Great War takes place and Russia defeats NATO in the north, that's not the end of Gog and Magog. No, because they have already left the north and they've gone down to the Holy Land. So they now be concentrated in the Holy Land, although Russia will control the north. And in the Holy Land they will now wage war until Nabi Isa alayhi salam returns. And they'll wage war on him as well. And he'll go up a mountain and pray to, and the mountain is in Jerusalem, and pray to Allah. And then Allah will destroy Gog and Magog. Zulkarnain cannot destroy Gog and Magog. When Allah destroys Gog and Magog, then He will send something which will attack them at the back of their necks. And they'll fall on, and by next morning they're all dead, and their bodies are beginning to decompose, which looks like biological warfare. Biological warfare. That Gog and Magog are reduced, the immune system is reduced to a state of zero. Zero. And they will take all of mankind with them. So when they die with a biological effect, and the doctors will say, well, there's no more left now for, what do you call it, antibiotics. We don't have any more antibiotics left. You know that you're falling Gog and Magog. You know that you're falling Gog and Magog. Your immune system is going lower and lower and lower and lower. Your children's immune system is going lower and lower and lower and lower. So that when Allah sends the biological attack at the back of their necks, they cannot resist and they all fall and die. And all those who follow them will also fall and die. A hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which he said, it is in Sahih Bukhari 4 times. And it's Hadith al-Qudsi. And it is the Day of Judgment, and Allah speaks to Adam alayhi salam and says to Adam alayhi salam, take out the people for Jahannam. And he asks, oh Allah, how many are they? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replies and says, out of every 1,000, take 999 for Jahannam. It's called the mother of all warnings. The companions of the Prophet ﷺ were terrified when they heard that. And he smiled and he said, good news for you. The one for Jannah will be from you, meaning someone in the religion of Islam. And the religion of Islam is not restricted to the Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ. But he went on to say that the 999 will all be Ahlu Ya'juj wa Ma'juj. Meaning if you die the way they die, because your immune system is reduced to helplessness, you become a part of the Jamaat of Gog and Magog. And when you become a part of the Jamaat of Gog and Magog and you die, you go into the hellfire. One last thing before I end. There's a difference between releasing and sending. The Quran speaks of release of Gog and Magog. حتى إذا فتحت فتح is to open. إذا فتحت يأجوج ومأجوج. The Quran speaks of the release of Gog and Magog, release. But the Hadith speaks about when Nabi Isa alayhi salam returns. It says, فَبَعَثَ بَعَثَ is not to release. Ba'atha is to send. So when Allah sends Gog and Magog, when Nabi Isa alayhi salam returns, it will be for their final destruction. But Islamic scholarship, it is a matter of embarrassment for me, disrespected the Quran, and there'll be a price for it. By turning to a solitary hadith to study Gog and Magog, and not bothering with the Quran at all, and using this hadith to misunderstand it, and to come to the conclusion, this is Darul Ulum Islam. And if my language is bitter, it's because I'm teaching this subject for 20 years now or more. And they refuse to listen to me. Ba'atha is to send. Allah will send the Gog and Magog, and they will then be destroyed. But they say no. They say Allah will release Gog and Magog only after Nabi Isa alayhi salam returns. So there is no question of Gog and Magog being in this world before the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. That pathetic position is that of the Darul Ulum. If today my language is harsh, they deserve it. They deserve it. Because I've been talking and talking and talking and talking to them for 20 years or more, but they will not listen to me. No, Imran Hosein is wrong. So today I say to them, you better prepare yourself to defend yourself on Judgment Day for having betrayed the Quran. We pray that Allah may bless our gathering here tonight, that you may have the knowledge of the Quran, that Allah may bless you with the knowledge of the Quran, that Allah may bless you with that which is in the Quran, which explains the world today. But Allah will only bless you with that knowledge if you are faithful to the book of Allah. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين.
Assalamu alaikum. We'll open the floor for question and answers. Inshallah, we've got somebody assisting with the sisters. If the sisters have any questions, if you could inshallah note those down and give them to the delegated sister, we'll get them passed over. Inshallah, we'll pass it on to the Sheikh. Starting with the brothers downstairs, the floor's open to yourselves. Any questions for the Sheikh? Brother Dan, yeah.
Sheikh, so the hadith where Gog and Magog are trying to break the barrier, they're unsuccessful until they say inshallah. Is this a solitary one?
There is a hadith quoted by Ibn Kathir in his book on Alamat al-Sa'ah, that Gog and Magog come every day and they're hitting against a wall, Bilbatul Karnain. And then at the end of every day, they say we'll come back tomorrow, but they do not say inshallah. And then one day they decide to say inshallah, and then they're able to break the barrier.
Yes.
If that's it. There's nothing in this hadith which is in harmony with the Quran. Nothing. And so I relegate this hadith to a lesser status. I don't have time for it. I prefer to take those ahadith which are in harmony with the Quran. I have no problem with that.
Any further questions?
My friend wants to know, are we living amongst the Gog and Magog?
The brother's asking, are we living amongst Gog and Magog at the moment?
Okay, let me try to repeat the whole lecture now. I just need an hour and a half. Did I not say that those who brought the Jews back to the Holy Land are identified in the Quran as Gog and Magog? Did I not say that modern Western civilization brought them back to the Holy Land? And therefore those who control power in the modern Western world, they are Gog and Magog.
Sheikh, could you?
Sorry, I've got a question. In Surah Rahman, verse number 33, it says, Ya ma'ashar al-jinni wal-insi in istata'tum an tanfudhu.
Yeah, I know the ayah. What's the question?
It says jinn as well. Ins and
Oh.
jinn. What is the reference for jinn in that?
Oh, you were not here yesterday. Was it yesterday? Did I lecture on the subject? Oh, you were not here yesterday. Shall I repeat yesterday's lecture? It's going to take some time to answer this. That the Quran speaks about Sulaiman alayhi salam. So you'll have to go to Surah Al-Saba and locate where the jinn are placed at his disposal. And then you have to go to Surah Al-Sad with the Jasad. And then you'll have to recognize that until Dabbatul Ard comes and consumes the staff, the Jasad will be able to use the jinn. And because the Jasad is using the jinn and the jinn don't know that he is not Sulaiman, the modern Western world has been able to get jinn to help them and support them in their evil work all these 500 years. But it's coming to an end now. When Dabbatul Ard consumes the staff will fall down, the jinn will then realize this is not Sulaiman, this is someone else. I shortcut for you, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying about it. But the others who've been listening to me, they know. Well, I just took half an hour and gave you half a minute.
Is that something which is covered in any of your books? Or is that particular lesson?
My last book on Dajjal will have some reference to it, yes. But this is new knowledge that Allah has given to me, which is not yet. My new book will have it in it.
Sure.
I hope I can finish it by the end of this. Oh, but I have several lectures now, delivered here in England, just waiting to be put on YouTube.
Sure.
So just wait for those lectures to come. I delivered this lecture in Dewsbury, yeah, in Dewsbury. And he's going to put it on YouTube sometime, maybe before Christmas, inshallah.
Sheikh, we, as part of the Islamic knowledge we are told about Imam al-Mahdi, when following your lectures, you have said very little about Imam al-Mahdi. What's your opinion about Imam al-Mahdi?
I have a chapter. The question is on Imam al-Mahdi. We have a sister sitting upstairs who also has this question, but much bigger than yours.
Can I just tie that question in with this question? Because the sisters quoted the question which she asked
Go ahead.
yesterday. How can Imam al-Mahdi bring about peace and justice when people of Fasad remain in control? To establish peace and justice, power and authority is required, which will remain with Gog and Magog. How can Imam Mahdi and Gog and Magog simultaneously spread peace and justice with the Fasad across the world?
Imam al-Mahdi will not emerge. Allah will not send him until Dajjal has completed his mission. Have you studied the subject? Would you know what I'm talking about? Huh? When I say this, that Imam al-Mahdi will not be sent by Allah until Dajjal has completed his mission. No, you don't know the subject. And you're already defying me. Wait, take a little time and study the subject. Allah has spoken in the Quran of the restoration of the Khilafah state in this Ummah. In Surah An-Nur of the Quran. And I gave this lecture in London, just wait for it to get on YouTube. I don't know what is happening now. I give a lecture and I have to wait 1 month before it gets onto YouTube.
Welcome to England.
وعد الله الذين آمنوا منكم وعملوا الصالحات. Allah has made a promise unto those from amongst you who have faith, because there are many who are part-time Muslims. Those from amongst you who have faith and whose conduct is righteous. لَيَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ, that we're going to establish them with the Khilafah state on earth. كَمَا اسْتَخْلَفَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. And when we do that, we do it in the same manner as we did it for those who came before. So Allah is telling you, if you will take a little time to listen, that's all. لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير. If we used to take a little time to listen, not that they come through one ears and go through the other ears. أو نعقل, and we used to think, we would not be in the hellfire today. So listen. Allah says, I'm going to restore the Khilafah state for you. Not for all of you. Not for the part-time Muslims. وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. That I'm going to establish the Khilafah, restore the Khilafah state for you, as I did it for those before you. As I did it for those before you. كَمَا اسْتَخْلَفَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. When Allah established the Khilafah state the first time, He sent and He appointed the Khalifa. It was Nabi Dawood alayhi salam. When Allah established the Khilafah state the second time, He chose and He appointed and He sent the Khalifa. It was Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And that Khilafah state, the first one, ended with the death of Sulaiman alayhi salam. رَبَّنَا اغْفِرْ لِي وَهَبْ لِي مُلْكًا لَا يَنْبَغِي لِأَحَدٍ مِّن بَعْدِي. That the Khilafah state must end when I die. I don't want him to inherit it. The second Khilafah state continued for some time after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, and then Allah raised it. And when Allah raised it, then it was replaced by Mulk and Ad, an oppressive rule. And that was replaced by Mulk and Jibriyah, coercive rule. And then said the Prophet ﷺ, Khilafatan ala minhaj al-nabuwa will return. And this is what the Quran is saying here. Khilafatan ala minhaj al-nabuwa will return. Okay? But when Allah established both these Khilafah states, it was on the basis of His sending someone to be the Khalifa. Not through an election. Not through Shura. No. So when He says, لَا يَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ, Allah is going to restore the Khilafah state. Is Allah doing it? So it has to be someone appointed by Allah. Who is there who is going to be appointed by Allah? Does the Quran inform us? Does Nabi Muhammad ﷺ inform us? Yes, He has. He has told us, but you don't want to listen. He has said that there is going to be an Imam known as Imam al-Mahdi that Allah will send. How will Allah restore a Khilafah state the third time, different from the first and second, when He has said in the Quran, كَمَا اسْتَخْلَفَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ, that I am going to restore the Khilafah state for you in the manner in which I established it before you. How did Allah establish it before you? Every time Allah established the Khilafah state, it was always on the basis of a Khalifa who he appointed. Not through elections, not through shura, Allah appointed. And the only person we have in Islam who's going to be appointed by Allah after Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, whether you like it or whether you don't, it's Imam al-Mahdi.
Do you have any other questions from the floor? What we'll do is I'll ask some of the sisters questions and then I'll come back to the brothers. One of the sisters asked here, regarding the hadith, the sun will rise in the west. You believe that this is a metaphorical and has already occurred. What is your opinion on this and regarding the doors of Tawbah being closed, which is also a part of it?
If you want to wait for the sun to rise from the west, literally, go ahead and wait. That's all. Go ahead and wait. I find it more convenient to go to the Quran for my guidance. You can choose your guidance wherever you want. When I go to the Quran for my guidance, the Quran tells me, I mean, NASA could say something else, but the Quran tells me that Allah causes the sun to rise from the east and set in the west. Full stop, that's enough for me. That's enough for me.
Do we have any other questions?
Okay, my question
Can
is
I just get that brother 1 second? We'll come back to you. Just that brother there.
Yeah, isn't Isa ibn Maryam coming back as a follower of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
Is Isa
Where
there?
have you been? Have you been in Birmingham or you came from somewhere outside?
No,
You came from here?
yeah, I'm from Birmingham.
Or it's the first time you come today?
No, because I've heard other scholars tell me that, you know, that he's coming.
I'm asking, is this the first time you've come?
What, to this masjid?
To my, you
No,
never
to your
heard me?
lectures first time, yes.
first time, yeah.
I should ask the Sheikh over here to teach you the subject because I have repeated it so many times, so many times, so many times, so many times. When Allah sent Nabi Isa alayhi salam the first time, He sent him as the head of an ummah, not as a follower. And He sent him to Banu Israel. In order for him to come back a second time in a different capacity, then there must be something called naskh, nasikh wa mansukh, that Allah cancels something previously there. So you have to give to me in the Quran, the evidence in the Quran, that Allah has committed naskh on this, and He's going to send Nabi Isa alayhi salam back in a different capacity. And if you come to me with hadith, I'll tell you that's the door, leave. Hadith comes only after the Quran. You don't bring the Quran, the hadith first, you bring the Quran first. And when it comes to naskh, it is the Quran that must provide you with the evidence. The Quran and only the Quran. Evidence that there is naskh. There's no such evidence in the Quran.
So he's not
So the same way that Nabi Isa alayhi salam came the first time, that's the same way he'll come back the second time. He's not coming to this ummah. No.
But is he coming back as a prophet to his people, to his followers?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I don't know how a Muslim could possibly think.
How
How could he possibly think?
So how can he
When Allah has sent him as a Nabi, and Allah has not said anything to the contrary, that he's going to come back in some other capacity, then who is going to say it? Who has the authority? Who has the authority? Only Allah has the authority, no one else. It is strange and mysterious to me that we do not show the proper respect for the Quran. Guidance must come from the Quran, proper methodology. Otherwise, you're going to go all over the place. You're going to go all over the place and you're going to end up misguided. Please, please listen to me. The Quran must be your primary source of guidance. You never go astray. And the hadith is to be accepted immediately. as soon as you see that it is in harmony with the guidance of the Quran. And if a hadith is in conflict with the Quran, put it aside. But when there are hadiths which are neither in harmony nor in conflict, yes, you can accept them. But they have a lower status. And you leave that for later. Okay? Nabi Isa alayhi salam is a prophet. Always a prophet. And will remain a prophet until Allah says he is not a prophet.
My question is about your lectures, chronological order of your lectures, venues and dates, where one can find the precise information about the lecture you're delivering and the venue which you're delivering at. Because YouTube doesn't, it's got everything.
We are in a difficult situation in Britain. If I make the mistake of lecturing before 1,000 people, you won't see me here again. No, you won't see me here again. In order for me to survive in this country, I have to speak to small gatherings. That's democracy. I have to speak to small gatherings. And I have to be low profile. That's the price I have to pay. So we don't have any publicity for my lectures. What we're doing is we have established a Google group email address. At the bottom, when this lecture comes on YouTube, you'll find a Google group email address at the bottom of the screen. So wherever you are in Britain, you can just sign up to this Google group, and whatever lectures I have, whatever seminars I have, wherever it is in Britain, the date, the time, the place will be put there. So you'll be able to get that information there, inshallah. Okay? Thank you for reminding me.
Maulana Azan did or time for that?
Shall we do dua first?
Can we just finish with the dua?
Dua. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك ربنا وتعاليت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير اللهم بارك لنا في رجب وشعبان وبلغنا رمضان
آمين.
وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلق محمد وعلى آله وعلى أصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. After the salat, you can bring the books for autograph, inshallah. That's right.